Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
It's a setup
To make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
the six-figure setup.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the
Go get the money, go get the money.
my check.
The six-figure setup.
Welcome to season 2 of the Six Figure Setup podcast. We are kicking off an exciting new season with a month-long series on love and business. On this week's episode, Tiffany Gillespie interviews James and Deanna Robinson. Chef James, better known as JR, is an international restaurateur whose journey began in the kitchen of the Ritz-Carlton in Arlington, Virginia, many years ago. From humble beginnings, his culinary skills have taken him around the world and into some of the most notable rooms of influential people. Deanna is an industry leader in her own right. Educated, gifted, and passionate, her 15 years of health and fitness experience have provided her with a wealth of knowledge on business and community building. Their love story, fertility journey, and approach to business partnership will inspire and educate you. This is a season opener you cannot miss.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Six Figure Setup podcast. We are in the month of February, better known as the month of love. I am so excited because all month long, we are going to be interviewing power couples, like real power couples that I know are actually making moves. They are impacting their communities. They are changing the lives of everyone connected to them. And I'm really excited because in this week's episode, we're kicking off the series. I have 4 amazing couples that I'm going to be interviewing all month long. So make sure that you all subscribe to the podcast, that you follow us and subscribe on YouTube so that you are aware of when the episodes go live. And you can also see the visuals that are connected to every episode. Just as a reminder, make sure that you all are actually paying attention to the commercials that run during this episode and all of the episodes, because that's going to tell you everything that you need to know about working with our community, staying engaged with the Six Figure Setup community. You'll learn more about our guests. They have ads and commercials running connected to their episodes. So make sure that you all are actually paying attention to those things and that you all register for all of the master classes that are going to be presented. We're doing master classes all month long, so I don't want you all to miss any of those, particularly if it's on a topic that you know that you need help in. So as I stated, all month long, we are interviewing powerful couples who are really doing life, love, and business very well. They are all keeping God at the center of everything that they do. And I wanted to bring, this series was really important to me because I know when I get married, my husband and I will do things together in our professional lives, but I get a lot of questions from you all about how to do partnership. How do you do partnership with your friends? How do you do partnership with your family? How do you do partnership when you are, a woman who maybe has this brand and, you get married? Like, how do you make that transition? So all of these questions, I'm not an expert in that area. So I wanted to bring on the experts who, again, are doing life, love, and business very well. And this episode, along with all of the episodes this month, are going to teach you all how to do those things. I have asked my guests to give specific examples, to share their secrets, and to help you to be able to navigate life in the same way that they have. So this week, I am very, very excited because I have Deanna and JR Robinson. They are a couple. So I had the honor and privilege of meeting Deanna, I want to say probably like 4 or 5 years ago now. I think it was in June of 2018 that I met her at a conference that one of our mutual friends produced down in Dallas, the Prosper Conference. You all have heard from Raven Hoquette on the Six Figure Setup podcast. If you know me personally, you know she's one of my closest friends. I've been featured in her stuff. She's been featured in my stuff. We do stuff together all the time. So this was one of those things that I had the privilege of actually serving as an intercessor at this conference. And that's where I met Deanna. Her story absolutely inspired me, and I've been following her ever since. So when I started following her, I discovered that she has an amazing husband who is as gifted and talented in so many areas. And I love the fact that they work in two separate industries, but again, they have figured out how to do life, love, and business together. So that's one of my favorite things about them, is that between the two of them and their skill set, they actually cover a multitude of industries. I'm not gonna give that away right now because we're gonna talk about it in a few minutes, but just some high level things that you all should know. I'm gonna start with JR. He is a chef who began his professional career when he moved to Washington, D.C. and found success in the upscale dining industry. He's been a cook at the Ritz-Carlton. He experienced a lot of promotion. He worked at the Blue Duck Tavern in Washington, D.C. And all of these experiences really helped him to increase his knowledge and his skill set in his industry. His culinary skills are unmatched, and he's really developed his own culinary style. So again, he continued to grow and grow and grow. And that's one of the things that I love particularly about his story, is that he did not jump from 1 to 100. And I think that in today's society, we see a lot of people who really want to go from like the entry level to being the CEO overnight. And that's just not realistic. I've shared my story with you all. I worked under other people for 5 years before I started my business, and another 3 years before I started consulting people and teaching them how to do the same. That was 8 years, right? So I love JR's story. He grew and grew and grew in the industry. He's been a sous chef, an executive chef at so many different restaurants, departments of the U.S. government. Like, the man's resume is impressive, but he created Kitchen Cray, which stands for Creative Revolutionary Artistic Youth. And it was really created to show his commitment rather to the community and to create accessible culinary experiences for the community. So he now owns 3 Kitchen Cray restaurants in the DMV area. And that's all I'm gonna tell y'all for now, because he's gonna tell y'all more of y'all's story. And that's just the husband of the couple. I haven't even gotten into the wife yet, okay? I haven't even brought them on screen yet to even have them tell any parts of the story that I may be missing. So a little bit about Deanna. She is a health and fitness professional and consultant, certified personal trainer, licensed holistic nutritionist, executive director, a motivator, wife, right, to her husband, mother to their daughter, like amazing, 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 and a woman of God. Again, we met in the spirit at a conference many, many years ago. So I've been able just to encounter her personally, and on a very intimate level. If you've ever like met someone and you all connected spiritually, you know that that's intimate, right? So she has literally just, again, excelled in her career as well. Not only is she gifted, but she's educated. She has a degree in kinesiology and public and community health from the University of Maryland. She runs Deanna Fitness LLC with an amazing team, and they help all kinds of people to improve their health, to make better choices for themselves and for their family. She's also created a retreat, which I'm not going to get into because we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but Deanna's resume is just as impressive as her husband's, okay? So she has created community and corporate wellness programming for the DC government, Washington football team, the Washington Metropolitan Transit Authority, Senate Corporation, Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, the Boys and Girls Club, BET. Like, she has worked with so many notable brands, AT&T, Prudential. I could go on and on and on about the different brands and organizations that she has worked with, but everything that she does is really to help her community to be healthier and more knowledgeable. So I'm going to stop with that. I'm going to bring them in because, again, that was just the introduction. That took me like 6 or 7 minutes because they are absolutely amazing. Welcome to the Robinsons. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Look, I feel like you need to rewrite our bios. I was listening like, wow, that's impressive. That's me?
Yes, so impressive. And again, y'all, I only read a portion of the bios, right? That's just a snippet. So we're gonna hop right in. As I stated, you all are obviously married. You have a beautiful 1-year-old daughter, Miss London Jade. She's gonna be turning 2 in June, right? June, she'll be turning 2. Yep. And you all have been married for over 5 years. I believe you all's anniversary is April 30th. Yep. So yes, been married for nearly 6 years, and really have just built a beautiful life together. So let's start with some of like the fun, lighthearted stuff. People, I think, would want to know how you all met. So can we kind of go back to the beginning? Because you all, in 6 years, y'all have done a lot. So how did you meet? Tell us the background story of that.
Yeah, so I guess I'll tackle that. So it's actually quite a full circle moment because Free, who is actually the former host of 106 in Park, who is actually going to be a host of my retreat this coming March, is actually how we met. So James met her, or JR met her at the radio station when he was doing some catering for the radio station. And at that time, she was my personal training client. And I was looking for someone to do some catering for I was doing like a client appreciation pool party. And so she recommended him. She actually recommended him and one of he had a chocolatier on his team. And so she recommended the chocolatier. And so the chocolatier came to the event. She made these amazing little like chocolates, and he came along with her. And the rest is history.
I absolutely love that. JR, what would you say from your perspective? Would you agree with that version of the story?
Yeah, I would agree with it. The crazy part was I wasn't even going to go to the pool party because I was just like, why do you need me to help you give out chocolates? And she was like, just come. And I was like, all right, cool. Come check it out. Because I was new in the city. I didn't really know nobody. So I was just trying to like get my name out, meet people. So yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, I love that. That's such a beautiful connection. And I did see that Free was going to be at your retreat this coming year in March. So, all right. So you all met doing your thing in business. So you all already both had established businesses prior to meeting?
Yep.
I was getting mine started. I just started, and I needed help. So I was just like, just trying to learn from everybody I can learn from, take that knowledge and apply it to what I was doing and just move forward.
That's what's up. So how long did you all date before like you actually got married? How long was that period of like getting to know one another leading up to marriage?
So I think we dated for 3 years and we're engaged for 1. Yeah. So we dated, 3 years, we're engaged for 1 and got married that 4th year.
Okay, awesome. So it sounded like it's been about a decade of y'all, being together and just learning and doing life together.
It has, and it's been a learning curve the entire time. Still a learning curve.
Yeah. Why would you say it's been a learning curve? In what ways?
So he and I had completely different, we grew up in completely different backgrounds. And so really learning how our backgrounds shape the way that we think, the way that we operate, and then learning to kind of deal with each other in that way, like keeping in mind how we were brought up and maybe some of the different like traumas that we each have dealt with. And that has really been something that we've gone to like marriage counseling. We've gone to marriage retreats, and we've really learned that and tapped into that, and it really helps us to stay married, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. So we're gonna dig into that more in our next segment of the podcast, because I do want to talk about, some of the challenges of, just marriage in general, but of course doing marriage and business together. So JR, I'm gonna start with you. So you said that you had just started your company when you all met. So you again are about a decade or so into business ownership. What made you decide to start your own company, and where were you living before you moved to DC?
So I'm from New York. So I wanted to change the scenery. So I came out here to Maryland and DC, Virginia, just somewhere where nobody knew me. So I could give them a version of me that I wanted people to know me by, so I came out here. I met some other entrepreneurs because I didn't really know how to start a business. I just knew, how to run other businesses. So I said, you know what? Let me try to start it on my own, but I didn't have like the tools. So I met like Deanna, my boy Christian, Dominique, Broadway, and Patrice. She was a lawyer. And I just said, you know what? I can cook for y'all. Y'all can, we can barter services because I didn't have a lot of money. And that's what we did. And I just took that and, learned as much as I can, learned the people, like what the people wanted in the area. Because I felt like they was missing something. So I started this thing called the Kitchen Takeover. And that was my way of planting my seeds and actually getting to know families and them getting to know me. And what I did was I would come to your house with a few chefs and we would take whatever you have on hand and make you a 5-star meal. So you won't forget us. And then when we started, and it was free. So when we started doing events where I needed people to pay, all the people that we went to do the takeovers, they were already invested in me, so they would support.
I love that. I love that. That's so interesting and creative to be able to take over someone's kitchen, jump in, do it for free, and to see the return on that. I absolutely love that. I didn't know that part of your story. So, Deanna, same thing for you. How did you get started in business, and what made you want to become a business owner?
So long story short, once I graduated, I was actually a paralegal at first upon graduation from college.
Me too.
See, so it wasn't my passion. It wasn't something that I loved to do. Actually, I cried in the office every day. But I actually took a interview at a chain gym. And I wanted to be a personal trainer there. And when they told me what the split was for personal training, that would go to the business, the gym, and that would go to me, I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I can do this on my own. Mm-hmm. And so I started it on my own. And I decided to build a team. And I knew that I wanted to build a team and do something different than what these major box gyms were doing, and actually pay them more than what these box gyms were. And so I built a business model that allowed me to do that.
Okay. I love that. And we'll talk a bit more about building businesses from the ground up, because that's what you all have both done. So we'll talk more about that in the next segment. So we know how you met. We know how you started your businesses individually. Where has the integration of the two come in? How did you all, did you know before you all met one another and got married? Like, for you all individually, did you always know that you wanted to own businesses and kind of do your professional life with your partner?
I think we did. Actually, before we even really started dating, James actually invited me to his house so that he could cook for me. But he was... it was a friend that he was living with. Yep. So he invited me there, and he cooked for me, but it was under the guise of I can make these healthy meals for your clients.
Okay.
And so from the beginning, and this was even before our first date, we were always thinking business. What can we do as far as business? And so obviously, from there, it just made sense. Food and fitness. We started a program called Culinary Crunches, which was really successful for us. We would get this cohort of people and we would put them through, we would see them, 5 days a week, and we would put them through workouts, and then he would create the meal prep, and we had like a motivational component in it. We had like a group text where we would keep people motivated, and we would do like 6-week programs, 8-week programs, and people saw huge changes, and not just in their body, but in their mental health, in their spiritual health, everything. And so that was the first business that we did together. I think now we're moving more towards things that are a little more lucrative for us. So we recently moved into real estate investing. So we just bought our first investment property. Yeah. And so business continues. It looks a little different, but we're in this for the long haul.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And what about you, JR? Did you know before you all met, like, when I get married in the future, I want to be able to do either business or just like our professional lives together?
I feel like I didn't know at first because I was just learning. I didn't really know how to do business. So like in my head, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to, see what I can learn from her and then apply it to what I'm doing. And then the more I grew, the more ideas I had and the more ideas she had. And then we just said, you know what? People started looking up to us. We were inspiring people. So we said, you know what, let's come up with something that we can do together. So the Culinary Crunches, we tested it on me first to make sure it worked. And it actually worked. And that's how we got people to sign up, because we was like, you know what? I just went through that. Y'all see what I started out as, and y'all see in the middle, and then the end result.
Yeah.
It worked out for all the people that signed up as well. People were coming back like, I couldn't fit this in college since I was in college, and now I'm going out, But the thing is, they gotta like really stay focused, because a lot of us fall off. Like we meet the goal, and then it's like once you meet the goal, you quit because you're like, I already did that, and then you end up back at square one.
Yeah.
So I feel like, once you meet the goal, and it's just like with businesses, once you reach your goals, now you have to maintain. And a lot of us don't like the maintaining part, because we did all the hard work and we like, it should be easier now. I shouldn't have to do this. Because I feel like a business is like working out, because once you get to a certain level, you thinking, I'm at the top right now. Why do I have to go in and work today? And it's like, you have to maintain. And I'm learning that right now, because I'm going back into the stores like, all right, maintaining things, making sure things are running how they're supposed to run.
Yes, that's so good. I wrote that down. I hope everybody that's watching has their notebooks out and ready. So we're going to circle back to that too, because I want to dig into that deeper, and how you all maintain the growth that you've had in business. And I love the humility of, knowing the seasons that you're in as well, and knowing like, okay, it's time for me to, kind of go back into the office, whatever that office is for you, that is really kind of trying to get back in there, and making sure that you're staying focused on revenue producing activities, because it can get very easy to get caught up in all of the administrative things of business, or even to get comfortable. Like, I've been a business owner for over 11 years now. You all have been in this thing for over a decade, 11, 12 years now as well. So I think we all know that it can be very easy to get comfortable. Like you said, JR, once you hit a certain goal, it can be easy to kind of get there and stay there, not realizing that, the same thing you did to get there is the same thing you have to do to at least, be able to maintain it. So that was good. We're going to take a really quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. And when we come back, we are going to really kind of dig into some of the rules for doing life, love, and business together. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.
Back by Demand. The first sales, procurement, and contracting masterclass was such a success that we had to schedule a part 2 on February 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. In part 2 of this masterclass, we will continue the discussion on evaluating your current sales process, analyzing your current business standing, market positioning and strategy, and so much more. Check out more information and register for this free masterclass by visiting the events page at t3diversitysolutions.com. Visit T3DiversitySolutions.com today.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Six Figure Setup Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Gillespie, and I am live with JR and Deanna Robinson. They are sharing all the wisdom that we could possibly fit into one episode about doing life, love, and business together. So before we left off, JR was dropping some wisdom on us about the importance of reaching and maintaining your goals, how that correlates with your physical health. So we're going to come back to that piece later, because what I really want to touch on and kind of dig more into is something that Deanna mentioned early on in the first segment, and that being like how you all keep your marriage healthy. So it's obvious that through the work that you all do, that health is important. And Deanna, you mentioned spiritual health, mental health, emotional health with your clients, and that you all were able to guide them in that. And in order to be able to guide someone, you have to be in that place. So can you talk, and whoever wants to start first, can you all talk about what you've done to keep your marriage healthy in the midst of scaling and growing your businesses?
Yeah, so I'll start. So one of the things that we make sure that we always do is continue to date each other. So even when like things are really hectic in our businesses, and right now this is a really busy season for him because he's opening up 2 businesses internationally, which I'll let him talk about. And then, trying to maintain, like he said, the businesses that he has going on here. And so he's been doing a lot of work. And so we really have to make sure that we are being intentional about, my love language is quality time, and he knows that. And so we really have to make sure that we're being intentional about spending that quality time together. And for us, we're foodies, and we love to go out to eat. We love to watch movies. And so we spend evenings, watching TV, watching movies, and we go on dates, going out to eat. So just keeping that quality time and remembering each other's love languages and making sure that we're feeding each other's love languages in addition to making our businesses grow.
Yep. JR, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Oh yeah. So I went to this, I think it was like a conference. That's what I would call it. And one thing I learned from it, the guy said, he said, people don't change when you understand them. They change when they're understood. So like me trying to figure out what that means, to me, it's like, in order to get the best out of people, they must feel understood. It don't matter about how much I think I understand her, how much I know her, how much I love her. Every year she's gonna change. So I gotta be able to make sure that she's understood and she understands that I understand her, for us to keep growing. Because when you marry, every year is gonna be, you're gonna go through something. You're gonna go through the highs, the lows, and a lot of us just post the good stuff on Instagram and never share like the real things that's going on behind the scenes. Like sometimes we get into arguments, but I was just telling her last night, what I tell my team is, it doesn't matter how you start or how good you are. It matters how you recover. Because if you have a team that's a good recovery team, you're gonna always win. Because you could get hit in the face or have an argument, and if you're walking around mad all night or for a month or a week, like it's gonna damage something. So if you know how to recover, everything is gonna be better, faster. You're gonna love each other more, and you're gonna get more stuff done.
Yeah, I love that. You got a lot of wisdom.
A lot of wisdom. Little gems here and there.
Yeah.
I pay attention to how things work, and I feel like that helps me in life to get to the next level. Because no matter how good you are, there's always going to be a level. Because with our businesses, we always think, this is going to be easier. And I was just talking to another business owner, and he was just like, man, every time you think it's going to be easier, you get passed on to the next level, and then you got to deal with that level, and then the next level.
Yep. Yes.
Every time you grow, you're making more money, you're growing, and it's just like, people are like, man, you shouldn't be doing nothing but taking a vacation. This should be running smooth. And it's like, no, we have other obstacles now. Like, all right, what we thought was hard on level one, because we would go through something like when I first opened the restaurant, and I was like, man, this is the hardest. Like making $2,000 was like the hardest thing to do. And then we made 15,000 one day, and then you start laughing like, dang, it was so hard making $2,000. Now we making 15, and it's like 2 is like a slow day. You know what I'm saying? When before it was like a busy day, like we just did 2,000. It's like, so it's just the more you grow, the stronger you get. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, it don't get easier, you just get better.
Yeah.
That's good. And I will even say, like, in the beginning of our marriage, because this has all been, like I said in the beginning, this has all been a learning curve.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of our marriage, when he was opening up the first restaurant, the first year of our marriage was the hardest year. Like, we didn't think we were going to make it. And it was all like learning to deal with stress. And dealing with the pressures. It's a lot of pressure to open up a business. And for him, it was opening up an entire restaurant where other people's livelihoods depended on him. Like he had payroll for businesses for people that had to support their families. And so that was a huge stressor for him. So coming home, I had to realize that I needed to be more of his peace when he's going through that. And sometimes it meant like dying to myself a little bit more, at least during that season. And just stepping up and just being his place of peace. So that was important for us to learn too.
Yeah. I love what you said. So dying to self. So we know that in God-centered marriage and Christ-centered marriages, that's literally what we do like all day, every day, right? That you are constantly dying to yourself. So JR, for you, in what ways, like, was it easy to, die to self? Because I heard what you said about really kind of adjusting as Deanna changes and as she grows and evolves, and you all kind of like, saying the same thing, giving different examples. But what does dying to yourself look like in marriage, but also in business? Because she was a business owner before you, right? So she had some ownership years in the game before you. So what does that process of dying to yourself look like for you?
To me, it's just, just taking a step back, helping your partner, and knowing that everything doesn't revolve around you. Because sometimes, as humans, like naturally, I feel like we all are selfish. It's all like, I want to do what I want. It's about what I need. And we don't really, think about everybody else or what everybody else needs. So I just feel like sometimes you got to step back and say, you know what? Let me support my spouse or my friends or whatever is going on and through this season, because I'm going to need grace too. And you got to always think about that. Like, people feel like they never need grace. They feel like, I've been doing this for a long time. I could do X, Y, Z and I'm good. And I'm just like, it's going to come a time where you're going to need that grace. So you better give it, because when it's your time to get it, you're going to appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Deanna, you mentioned that in the beginning, so you all talked about year one. And when you said that, literally, I just wanted to like bust out in tears, because one of the things that I've heard, I'm not married yet, but one of the things that I have heard from a lot of people who are married and again have Christ-centered marriages is that the beginning years can be tough, right? As you're navigating how to do all of the things together. And then when you add children and when you add family and friends and how all of those things impact your marriage, that it can be, a rough year. But you mentioned that you all have gone to marriage counseling, that you really kind of dug through some of the trauma that impacts and influences the way that you all do life together. What advice would you give to a couple in general, but particularly a couple that works together, if they find themselves in the place of, I don't know if we're gonna make it?
So I would say, especially as business owners, we always see like there's ebbs and flows in business. So when I previously, I had a gym, it was an all-female gym, it closed down in December. But I always saw ebbs and flows in the membership. And so like the winter time, it would slow down a little bit, and then like spring, summer, it would pick back up. And I feel like marriages are exactly the same way. There's times when you'll be down and really down. And you just have to remember that this is just the down season of your marriage. And when you're up, you'll be up. And when you're down, you'll be down. And you just have to get through those valleys in order to see those peaks again.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, JR?
Yeah, I feel like counseling and therapy and stuff like that, sometimes that helps out with like different techniques, because we used to go to the classes and we would look at each other, because we would see people that's married for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, with kids and everything, and they would be like, we have to schedule to have sex, and we would look at each other like,
schedule? What?
that's not normal, you know what I'm saying? That's not like you like on the calendar like, all right, 10 o'clock. But then after you have kids and your baby is sleeping in the bed with you and you're tired, you might have to do that. That might work for you. You got to just learn how to try different things, because every season in your marriage is going to be different. And even having people holding you accountable for certain things, like that's married too. Yeah. So like we have friends that's married that we can hang out with, because sometimes you feel like you're right, and you call your boy and they'd be like, man, you better cook her something and give her a kiss to say something. Like, it don't even make sense. Like, so just having the right support system around you, and just understanding the person and not always try to come back with something, because I feel like sometimes with couples, we're not listening to each other. We don't hear each other. We're not listening. We just want to hear something like, I feel like she's coming at me, because sometimes we do that, and I will wait. I'm feeling like I'm being attacked. So the first thing I want to do is get defensive and, retaliate or whatever you want to say, So sometimes you just got to step back and say, all right, and let that person feel what they're saying. And sometimes they'll catch on like, hey, I said something wrong, because he's not even arguing with me, So you just got to learn, because I used to be one of those people that just quick to just come back and hurt.
He's a New Yorker.
I was just about to say that. I was going to let him finish. I'm like, oh, so you was giving New York. That's what was going on.
He was giving rural New York. Yes.
So.
Yes. Another thing too that I think it's important to realize is that, especially as like business owners, we both are naturally really competitive.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to realize that it's always he and I as one team, and he and I against whatever the challenge is, or he and I against, the enemy. And so once we realize that we are really playing for the same team, that helped us as well.
Yeah, that's good, because y'all, all right, I think you said what needed to be said. That team piece and playing for the same team and remembering who the enemy is or what the enemy is, I think is very important. So you all have a couple of things going on together. So we have the fitness company, 3 restaurants you just mentioned. I feel like I got an exclusive that some international businesses are coming. You also talked about closing a business, which we'll talk about in our next segment. But so again, we have the restaurants, we have some international businesses coming, we have the health and fitness company, the retreat. You all also do couples like vacations and getaways for people. Can you all talk a little bit about that, and what was the inspiration for doing these couples getaways?
Yeah, so it's something we're just getting off the ground, but it's just something that was birthed out of what we love to do, which is travel together and eat well. And so we wanted to kind of, so when we travel, we always like post our experiences on social media, and people would always say, I would love to travel with you guys. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. And so we found a business opportunity in it. And we decided to allow people to have these amazing luxury vacation experiences with us that we completely curate.
I love that. You all also have a logistics and trucking company that started, and then you also mentioned that you just got into investing. So JR, how are you all balancing all of this? Like, that's a lot of moving parts. And then y'all so bold and brave, and I love it. But we're about to go international. Like, how are you balancing all of the ideas, all of the businesses, marriage, parenthood, still maintaining like friendship and relationship and familyhood and all of that? How do you all balance it all?
For me, I just pray and, just ask God to give me the strength, the energy, the support I need to get through whatever I need to get through as far as like starting the businesses, because like you said, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, and it's a lot of money. So when you open in these businesses, like the transportation business, you want to buy your trucks, that's a lot of money. Restaurants, you got to pay for those build outs, that's a lot of money. The real estate, you already know when you got to put up that 10-20%, that's a lot of money as well. So just praying and just asking God to lead me in the right direction to put our money, because I know I can mess some money up by I was just talking to Deanna, buying dumb stuff, thinking, I deserve this, so let me get it for myself because I couldn't get it. So now I'm just thinking like, it's bigger than me, and what can I do to make impact with this money, and what type of businesses that we can start together that can grow and start generational wealth. So that's why we started with the real estate, the stocks, and things like that.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, he said, praying about what, where our money should go, but also praying about where our resources, specifically our time, should go, because I feel like a lot of times, like as Christians, we always want to like give back and give to people and give our time. And so it's really important to really be able to, one, discern the voice of God so that where your charitable or like your bartering efforts should go. So you're not constantly just giving of your time everywhere, and then your family is like lacking and you're not even benefiting from where you're putting, your resources. So
So good. So let's talk a little bit. I want to piggyback on that. There's the respecting the time, respecting the financial resources. I love that you said, JR, that you pray for energy. That's something I pray for all the time, like energy, strength, stamina, a good attitude. Because we know when we're like tired, I know for me, let me speak for myself. When I'm tired or when I'm hungry or whatever, like that attitude, can crop up, not even intentionally, but, being short with people and you don't want it to impact, your marriage and stuff like that. So what are some boundaries or rules that you all have in order to keep business from negatively impacting your marriage, or outside people influences? How do you keep the external things from impacting this internal thing between the two of you all?
Yeah, I would say the main thing is for us is communication. Because there's no one rule that we can really stick to, because like I was saying, like this is a really busy time for him. So if I said, hey, we need to make sure that, Saturdays and Sundays you're not working and you're spending with the family, that's not really realistic for us. Or any rule at any point in time could not be realistic for the way that our business is going. So just communication, letting each other know where we are in business, letting each other know the challenges that we're facing and what our time is looking like for like the months ahead, so that we can really prepare. Because he always lets me know, hey, I'm opening up this restaurant. I'm going to need to be really like 10 toes down for the next month. And so I know that I need to prepare my life to be basically a full-time mom for the next month and be able to, take her to daycare and bring her back from daycare. And so really that communication is really, really important for us, because that's where we kind of, I won't say failed, but that's where we lacked initially, was that he was going through so much stress and opening up that first restaurant. I had no idea. And so when he came home, I would be like, you didn't take the trash out, or you left the bag of popcorn open. And it would be like this complete explosion. I had no idea where it was coming from, not realizing that, the bandwidth was here already. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, just the communication for us has been tremendous in helping us in marriage.
Yeah.
You got to know, what I do is I come up with a list of things I'm going to sacrifice. And I said, these are the things that I'm doing so you can get on board with me and support me. So these are my sacrifices, and I might not have weekends. And when we went to counseling, the pastor, he told us, he said, you know, it's like a video game. You leave the house with this much energy and you go out into the world, and then you're giving all your energy to the guests, to people complaining, to your staff, and you come home with this much. When you come home, you know, you want to come home to peace, and you want your wife or your family to give you some energy back, to get you back full before they, you know, start talking about the task they need you to do. Like, you forgot to take out the trash. Because when, after you had a good dinner, you had a good laugh, and you back feeling normal, then you can talk about those things. And it's all about how you deliver it too, the delivery, the tone, and how the person receives it. So you got to know who you're talking to.
I love that. Know who you are talking to. So last thing before we take a break, we talked about challenges in businesses, navigating different seasons. Deanna, you all have shared you all's fertility story publicly, which I absolutely love. I also love the way, let me tell you, the way that you cared for yourself in your pregnancy with London, like the massages, the alignments, like all of that. And I sent you a message like, oh, this is goals. Like, I am taking notes that I need to be doing this and I need to be doing that, and really making sure I'm taking care of myself. But you all have shared, you know, your journey, your fertility journey, and just the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of that process as well. What was it like to be experiencing such success? And I think, JR, you mentioned this as well, that like people don't share a lot of the downside of things, the more challenging moments. So what was it like to be seen as this couple that is thriving? The businesses are growing. You know, we got more than one location. We have multiple businesses, multiple things happening, but to be privately dealing with something that was so challenging. How did you all stay grounded and rooted, like with each other, when the outside perception was one thing, but internally you all knew that you were dealing with a challenge that is quite honestly very common?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was sheer faith. Like, I knew that God had called me to become a mother, and I just knew that it was just a matter of time. So for me, it wasn't even that much of a stressful situation, because I knew what God had told me. Now, we did experience a miscarriage, which was really tough for us, especially because, so let me just tell the story a little bit. So we went to the doctors for a routine appointment, a prenatal appointment. We were in the second trimester, and the doctor told me that there was no heartbeat. And so it was just in the stress of that moment, the stress and the sadness of that moment, we actually got into a huge argument right after I found out this news. And I was actually I had to head to the OR to actually have, to deliver the baby. And we weren't talking. I didn't even want him to come to the OR with me. He came, thank God. You don't remember that? I remember we were in a huge argument. And so, yeah, it was a really trying time in our marriage, but faith is what kept us. Just the faith of knowing what God had called us both to do. And for me, it was even more tough because he was already a dad. He already had 2 children. He has 2 other children. And so for me, it was really a faith journey in that I would, be able to become a mother sometime too. And God is faithful.
Yes, he is.
Yes. And let me also say that you prayed over me and prayed over my womb, and London is here.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I love seeing all the babies. I recently did an episode with another woman whose womb we prayed over at that event. And there's this picture, probably one of the most popular pictures from that event, where I'm praying with this particular woman, and her husband are pregnant. And she told me before they went public with it. And when I say seeing these babies that these are the babies I pray for, answered prayers, it has really been a blessing. So thank you for allowing me to journey with you all, through that, and to be able to pray with you and for you. So JR, I do want to hear from you a little bit, because Deanna shared her perspective, right? That, she's the first time mom. You have 2 children, had 2 children prior. What was the journey like for you experiencing that loss? Like, from her perspective, she's like, we had this argument. I don't even want you to come into the OR, but thank God you did. This is a sad moment. It's a stressful moment. What was that like? What was it like from your perspective? And what advice would you give? I wasn't even planning on going in this direction, but since we're here, what advice would you give to other fathers? Because I think one of the things that I do know is that a lot of times when a miscarriage happens, it's only seen as the woman's loss when it's really not. It's the couple's loss. So what advice, what was the experience like for you navigating that? And then what advice would you give to fathers who have experienced a miscarriage?
For me, my experience, at first, of course, it was sad. It was a little confusing. I didn't really know, because, I'm not carrying the baby, so I don't really know, like, how she's feeling. And, you can learn the hard way. Like she said, I guess we had, like, a big argument. I don't remember it, but I guess I didn't really know what she was going through. Because sometimes, like, as a father, we might downplay certain things, because it's like when you watching the game and you're like, man, why he didn't take that shot? It's like, you're not on the court. You don't know what he's going through in that moment of why he passed the ball. And it's the same thing, like, when you're going through something like that. I don't know exactly what she's going through in that moment. And, you just got to give your wife or your spouse, time, space to go through what they need to go through. Because sometimes we just want to rush in and say, come on, let's move on. It's just like you treating it like business. All right, that happened. Let's move on to the next. What we doing after this? And it's just like, no, like, let me deal with it how I want to deal with it. So I would just tell, like, the dads to, give them their space, just support them. And I feel like everything that we go through privately, it's kind of hard, like, because people look at us as this big couple making this money, making moves. So nobody ever calls to check on us. Nobody ever, see if we need anything or if we need help. So I could be going through something, and I don't really talk to my family like that. I don't talk to my family at all. I just, talk to God. And now I'm trying to gain some mentors. But she have her family she can talk to, and I always tell her that. I'm like, some stuff I gotta hold back that I don't want to talk to you about you. That I need to talk, like, you got somebody you can talk about me with. Right. Not nobody I could really talk about you with. So it's hard. And I tell her that, I'm like, I don't have, like, that support from my family like you do, because they look up to me like I'm supposed to be paying everybody bills, giving everybody money. And I'm like, at this point in my life, I have to take care of my own family that I have, that I'm responsible for. I can't take care of my brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts. Like, I can't do that, because then I end up back at square one. So my goal is to sacrifice, do what I need to do, get to the level, and then try to bring other people on when I can. And they got to be up to them if they want to work, if they want it or not. So it's just like anything we go through is kind of hard, because we got to really, and we got to decide if we want to let the outside know, because then some different energy when you start getting these fake calls on people. Then they want to check up on you. Oh, I saw, so it's a lot. Like, you just got to know, you got to do what's on your heart. You got to pray and just stay focused and, be strong at the same time.
Yeah. So good. Y'all dropped a ton of wisdom. We've covered a ton of topics, things that I wasn't even expecting, to go in that direction, but we let the Holy Spirit do what the Holy Spirit's going to do around here. So thank you all so much for being transparent about that. We are going to take one last break. And when we come back, we are going to have the Robinsons share their 6-figure secret on attaining 6 figures in revenue and maintaining it, as JR said. And then we're just going to wrap up with talking about some additional business stuff. So don't go anywhere. This is the 6-Figure Setup Podcast, and we'll be right back.
Have you heard? Annual enrollment for T3 Diversity Solutions membership-based program is now open. As their longest-running group program, clients who join the council have consistently defied odds while growing personally and professionally. Enrollment in their 9-month program grants you access to some amazing features, including their relief fund, business retreats, and investment opportunities. Beginning March 5th, 2023, this 9-month program will focus on business education along with actionable strategies you will be able to put to use immediately. Open enrollment closes soon, so visit T3DiversitySolutions.com today to join. That's T3DiversitySolutions.com today.
All right, welcome back, guys. We are down to our last segment of this episode with the Robinsons, Deanna and JR. We've talked about everything. They have gotten super, super personal. Like, I done got all up in their marriage business, all up in their family business. So now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the business. We've covered a couple of things, but I want to dig a little bit deeper because I want to make sure that every person that's listening really walks away with some of the things that they have tangibly done. And then, I always encourage you all, put those things in prayer and see if it's something that can work for your business. So during the commercial break, I got the inside scoop on some things. So I'm going to go to JR first because the man is working. All right. He is working. So earlier in the episode, there was a mention of some international businesses opening. So JR, can you tell us first, like, what those businesses are? And can you give any advice to anyone who may be considering opening a business internationally?
Yes. So the first business we have is in Jamaica. It's the biggest nightclub in Jamaica. So it's a nightclub, lounge, and restaurants. 20,000 square feet. It's the biggest place on the country, and I have partners: Sarge, Lou, D, Omar, and D, 2 Ds. So we all came together, put our money together. We actually did this without using the bank as well, because with the bank, they tack on those rates where you're paying that money back and you're sitting there like, man, like if we go at this rate, we're gonna end up giving the bank an extra 100,000. So we said, you know what, let's do this one without the bank, and we get our money back faster, keep our money, and do the right thing with it. The second one is in Lagos, Nigeria. So it's the first African-American owned restaurant, and it's going to be a part of the Addison Hotel, and we also have partners out there as well. My guy Lou, Zella, Victor, and Comfort. And Comfort and Victor are actually from Lagos, so they used to come to the US and they said, you know what, we need this vibe out there. And I said, let's bring it to them, go to the motherland and make it work. And doing business out the country is super hard because you have to find lawyers in those places on top of having lawyers in the States to go over to make sure you do the business right. Because, a lot of people, I feel like they get something and they feel like it's really good and then they try to rush it. So the advice I would give anybody is take your time, see what type of people you're dealing with, understand them, and know how they move so you can move accordingly, because partnerships are hard. If you have like 4 or 5 partners, everybody's mindset is not the same. So you have to learn everybody, talk to everybody differently. Like some people feel disrespected if you don't look at them when you talk. So you just got to learn who your partners are, make sure all your paperwork is lined up and is correct so it won't backfire in the end. And always have like an ending date with the partnership so you could, it's like with rent, you renegotiate to see if you still want to be in or if you want to sell your shares or how you want to do it.
You just dropped a lot. Listen, I'm over here taking notes like, okay, noted. I would definitely piggyback on something that's very small that I actually don't want people to miss because it's important, is that someone can be offended by you not looking them in their eyes when you're talking to them. That there are a lot of cultural nuances and things that seem very small, but are actually very big when you start thinking about international international business ownership. For myself, I have my first business partner out of the country who is in Ghana. By the time this episode airs, maybe it'll be public. If not, this is the going public with it. But it's my first international business partner, and we have slow walked everything. Like everything. I already do that in business anyway, particularly with partners. I don't rush into anything, but I would definitely encourage anyone who wants to make the international leap to make sure that you understand the culture, take the time to get to know your partner, because it's a relationship. Just like a romantic relationship, you would, date them a little while, court them a little while before you marry that thing together. And I think the same has to be true for any business partnership, but particularly when you're dealing with international business, you need to understand their laws, your laws, like how would the two relate and all of that. So the international business piece, I really love that. And the fact that you have brick and mortar establishments internationally. For me, my business is in it's headquartered in Ghana, but we can do business virtually and, all of those things. So we don't have a brick and mortar that we have to worry about going to physically check on it with our eyes and like make sure it's still standing. And what I'm being told actually aligned with what's happening, in the restaurant and stuff like that, or in the nightclub and lounge. So thank you for that wisdom. Anybody who is thinking about doing international business, rewind this part, go back and listen to everything that JR said, and then really think through that before you go international.
And you want to learn like the taxes over there in whatever country you're going to, and open a bank account, get a visa, and if you can, like buy land as well. So you can really be a part of that culture in that country since you're doing business there.
Yeah, so good. We could probably do an entire episode. I'm making a note that we have an international businessman on our hands. So if we ever come back around to talking about doing business internationally, I will be bringing you back on, because all of those, like, you really have to get entrenched in the culture if you want to do business there. Like, that's very, very important. So thank you for all the wisdom that you shared. So you're opening to international businesses, but Deanna, you mentioned earlier about closing a business. I've shared publicly that in my life, I have closed 2 businesses, and actually ended a couple of businesses before they ever came into fruition. Businesses that I had done with business partners. We tried, it wasn't really working, so we never really got the thing off the ground. And I'm grateful, again, just like with any other relationship, that before we married on that thing, that we figured out, you know what, this is actually not going to work the way that we thought that it would. That's okay. So let's go ahead and shut it down. But business owners, and particularly I think in Black and Brown communities, we don't talk about closing businesses. We don't talk about selling. And JR, you mentioned that, like knowing when to get out of a business, knowing when to sell a business, knowing when to close, whatever. So how did you make this decision, Deanna, to close your business? What did that feel like? Like, what was the journey of doing that? And what would you recommend to anyone who probably knows that they need to close their business, but maybe on the fence for whatever reason?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you said that, because I do feel like in Black and Brown communities, there is this stigma with closing your business or selling your business. And I think that any smart business owner has an exit strategy for their business. Even, James and I talk about, what kind of offer would it take for someone to come around for him to sell Kitchen Cray? And so you should always have some type of exit plan in mind for your business. Now, you can still work in your business if you want to, but it's always great to have some type of exit plan for your business. And so I see this actually a lot with other Black companies too, that decide to, maybe they sell their business to someone else, or they maybe close down like a warehouse and, change their operations to like a larger warehouse or a larger distributing company. And so it's really important, I think, for as business owners to understand that, well, for me in particularly, I understand that I answer to God, number one. And so he had been telling me, my gym had been open for 11 years. I had London, and I kept my business open for a few months after she was born. And God had been telling me that this is the end of that season for me. And as a business owner, knowing that a lot of people look at closed businesses or selling businesses as failure, it was kind of hard for me to come to grips with the decision to close my business, because I was thinking, well, are people going to think I'm closing because we couldn't withstand COVID, or, I just couldn't be there anymore, or, the many reasons why people may feel like a business failed, essentially. And that wasn't the case at all. Even when I closed and I made that announcement that I was closing, I got like a lot of "I'm so sorry" messages, and I'm like, this is not a sorry thing. This is something good. This is something that God is telling me to do so that He can propel me into the next level of what He would have me do. But the thought is always, it failed. And so you really have to know and stand strong in what God is telling you to do. I even had a situation where I was closing the gym, but I still kind of wanted to keep one foot in the door, and I was going to try to open up this virtual gym, something that I could do from home a little bit more. And I remember like working on this virtual gym. I had the logo and everything ready, and I started working on the computer to like get it all up and running. And I remember God just being like, no. Every step of the way, I would have so many issues with like little technical things that I never had an issue with for the whole 11 years that I had my gym open. With some of the platforms that I was using, I was having issues with, and I was like, all right, God, I hear you. And one of my prayers is always that, like, because I'm a very persistent person, and I think that's part of what makes me a good business owner too. But one of my prayers is always like, God, you know that you have made me very persistent. And so if there is a door that you do not want me to go through, I am going to need you to slam that door shut that I cannot pry that thing open. And so that's what God was doing with me in this moment, was telling me, Deanna, I want you to step back from that completely, because I have something better for you. And I listened, and it paid off for me, despite, me feeling like, what are people going to think? Are people going to feel like I failed? But yeah, I listened to God, and it definitely paid off for me.
Yeah. I love that. And I thanks for the transparency and honesty, because the closing or selling a business is often seen as literally selling out if you sell your business, or failing if you close the business. And that's just not the case. So having an exit plan is very important. So,
and we saw that happen really big with with Carol's daughter. I feel like that was like one of the biggest examples we saw. Like when she sold Carol's daughter, everybody was like, she's a sellout. She should have put it flat.
It's just business. Because a lot of people are embarrassed to share their stories too if the business is not working out. I always say, if the numbers don't make sense, you are going to shut down. Like, what are you holding on? Some people just want to walk around and have that title as a business owner, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like you can do something else. Maybe owning a business is not your thing. So,
or owning this type of business.
Owning that type of business. Like, don't be embarrassed or ashamed to let something go and receive something else, because you can't receive something if you're still holding on to something. So you got to let it go and then receive, what you've been waiting for.
Yeah, that's so good. So we are at my very favorite part of the show, and the part that all the listeners and viewers are waiting for, and that is where my guests spill their six-figure secrets. So we've alluded to it multiple times in this episode. What is you all's secret to attaining, to getting and keeping the six-figure revenue? If both of you all want to share, or however you want to answer that question, but what is the secret that you all would say has helped you to attain and be able to maintain that six-figure revenue in business?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. I have two things. The first thing is going to be to just maintain integrity in your business. People love to support businesses with people that they love, especially if you are kind of the face of your business. So maintaining that integrity, treating people right. And I know a lot of times, like I mentioned before, like as Christians, sometimes there can be like some gray areas in business. Like usually Christianity and business don't really go hand in hand. And so really learning how to be a great Christian entrepreneur is a lesson to learn in itself. And integrity is definitely one of those things that we learn. And then the other thing is, and I read this actually in a Black Enterprise article, that you should try to attain businesses or buy businesses or create businesses that don't require too much of your time, so that you can actually you actually start to like automate the businesses become self-sufficient, so that you can move on and tackle your next endeavor. And that's not to say that you won't be grinding in your business for a little bit, but you will be grinding to get to that point of your business kind of being autonomous, and then that allows you to kind of move on to the next thing. So diversifying the income, because you won't become wealthy off of just one business. There's always going to be some type of diversification of income and revenues, and then just maintaining that integrity.
For me, like, for example, my first year, we did $4 million. So that was my first time actually making, millions of dollars in 1 year. So I didn't even know what to do with the money. So you got to make sure you sit down with your CPA or financial advisor, so you can know where to put your money to make your money grow. And that's why we wanted to do like the real estate, because they have this thing called the 1031 exchange, where if you buy a property, say for $1 million, and you sell it for $3 million, you could take that $3 million to buy a property for $4 million and don't have to pay the taxes on that money. So it's just like learning different avenues on where to put your money, so you're not wasting it on stupid stuff, trying to write it off. Because I think we all get caught up in trying to write stuff off, and that makes your business look bad when you open it up to banks, because nobody wants to support a failing business. So you got to make sure your mindset is actually to grow the business, have a successful business, and it can grow little by little each year, but just make sure that it's growing and it makes sense. And I feel like that's my secret. Just look at your numbers, it makes sense, and let's grow. Let's not try to every year escape paying every little tax that we can, because when you pay taxes, that means you're making money. So that means you're actually growing. And I feel like in our communities, we don't want to grow because we always want to take like a shortcut or scam the system to keep the money, and then it backfires later on.
Or write every little thing off.
Yeah, and then you go to the bank because you want to grow, and you can't grow how you want to grow, and the bank is looking at you like, well, why would we give you money if you can't even handle the money in your business? We don't trust you, so we're not gonna. And then we complain, the banks don't want to give us money and this and that. Then you're looking like the bank don't want to give you the money because you're a failing business on paper. Even though you're successful and succeeding, on paper, you're failing. So just keep your paperwork tight, keep your numbers tight, talk to your CPA, and do the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. Stop trying to run from the cost of doing business. Like, the cost of doing business is that you have to pay taxes. Like,
have to pay taxes.
It just is what it is. Y'all dropped some wisdom. So integrity, low time commitment so that you can use your time to build other things, diversifying the income, having a plan for your money, and also working with experts, people who know more than what you know, particularly about handling and managing the money. So they didn't just give y'all one secret. That was about 5 or 6 secrets to attaining and sustaining six-figure revenue. So we have made it to the end of our time together. I am going to toss it back to you all, because word on the street is that in addition to opening some businesses internationally, Deanna is about to become an author. So can you tell us more about the children's book that will be out, or that is out, and just, what details do people need to know about the topic of the book and what it centers around?
Right. So I am the executive director of a nonprofit where we focus on 3 cornerstones with the youth, and it's physical activity, mindfulness, and nutrition. And so the book that I am writing, the main character is our daughter London, and the book is called Ooh Yuck, I'm Not Eating That Stuff. And it basically is London going through a bunch of foods that she feels like are yucky, and me and her dad creating these amazing masterpieces out of these foods that she thought were yucky, and then how they become some of her favorite meals. So it's like a really comedic book. Some of the facial expressions that she's making in the book, and how she finds out that, a cucumber can actually become a pickle that she really loves. How tomatoes are in her favorite bowl of spaghetti that she loves. And so it's a really fun book, a really great way to introduce your, what I call selective eaters, not picky eaters, because that's kind of a negative connotation on that, but how to introduce your selective eaters to foods that they may not otherwise like, but that they may like in different forms.
Yeah, that's so smart. And I love that selective eater versus picky eater, because the reality is that we are all selective in what we eat anyway. Kids are just trying to figure it out. So that's great. So we have the children's book, 3 restaurant locations with 2 international restaurants, and then the club and lounge in Jamaica. So that's coming. Still doing work in the fitness industry. You all are into real estate investing now. So there's a lot of different things. Can you tell people how they can stay connected with you so that they, can follow your journey?
Sure, yeah. So for me, Instagram is probably the best way. So my Instagram handle is at Deanna Robinson Fit. And then the book is available on Amazon. Ooh, yuck, I'm not eating that stuff.
Yeah, and with me, we're actually opening a speakeasy lounge next month as well in DC. So I forgot to tell y'all that. So stay tuned. So that'll be open soon. Okay. And to reach me on Instagram is Mr. Chefito, MrCheffito, and our website is www.kitchencray.com. Just follow us, follow the journey. We're going to be posting some stuff where we do charity work, where, people could come out and help as well. Come to the restaurant. It's always a celebration.
Yeah. I love when business owners just be pulling businesses out the tuck, oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Right.
I'm wait a minute, this is a whole other business. Y'all are working, man. Y'all out here working, and I absolutely love it. So make sure that you all visit Kitchen Cray if you're in the DMV area. If not, go visit, figure out how to get there. We want them booked and busy all year round. Make sure that you all follow Deanna and the work that she's doing in the fitness sector. Let's keep them busy. Let's buy out the books. Y'all know I love to get a sold out notification. So let's buy them out, keep them booked and busy. Make sure that you all share this episode, follow them on social media, patronize the businesses, subscribe to the YouTube channel for the 6 Figure Setup podcast. And make sure that you all subscribe and download the episodes of the podcast. So that is all that we have for you all today. I am very, very grateful for my guests being here, being so honest and vulnerable and transparent, and sharing their secrets about doing life, love, and business together. This has been another episode of the 6 Figure Setup podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Gillespie, and I'll see you all next time.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup.